got mail. This is something I ordered after somebody had mentioned in the comments that they couldn't find 3030. And it got me thinking, yeah, that's probably going to be a problem for a lot of people. But I know like 3 people who I'm sure it's going to be a problem for. So I've got die sets for 3030, and I have a lead loader for 3030. But I thought, well, I'll pick up another to be on the safe side. You know, this might be the point where some of these people who have never reloaded will want to reload. And I always have said, you know, the lead loader is the way to start. I'm going to be going out one of these next days and working with some 3030 of the 125 grain. Let's see what I can do with them. But, you know, like this would be very simple for somebody to learn to reload. Like a 170 grain bullet using 3031. You know, pretty solid deal. And they work perfectly fine. You know, I like these. And my theory is if I can get somebody reloading, well, and the one guy I'm thinking of in particular has a 30 Remington too, and the 3030 classic loader will load a 30 Remington. So that might cover him on 2 bases there. Now this came from, well, it's a shop in Old Town in Minnesota called For Sportsman. I bought a lot of stuff from them. I like them because they're not that far away. You know, 2 days and stuff is always here. But I think on eBay, he goes under the name of Reloader's Choice. But it is For Sportsman. But it was $55. But when I hear of a box of 3030 shells costing $40, you know, and like I say, get somebody reloading. I do have plenty of brass, plenty of primers, and plenty of bullets for 3030. So I think, you know, that can be done. It's kind of a teach man to fish rather than keep giving him fish. But if I can, you know, teach somebody to reload. But there was something else I was going to talk about. You know, this is my Nagant and this is unloaded. You know, nothing in there. But this thing with this Alec Baldwin shooting somebody. You know, when I first heard that, you know, on a movie set, accidentally shooting with a prop gun, and I'm thinking, oh, it had to be like an automatic. You know, an automatic is inherently more dangerous for somebody who isn't experienced with them than a revolver is. You know, revolver is a pretty straightforward thing. Automatic, but then I hear a little more about this, and I find out, well, yeah, this movie is set in the 1880s, so, okay, it ain't no automatic. In all likelihood, a Colt single action. You know, and no prop gun. I'm sure this was one of the, you know, they remade a lot of those old Colts. Well, a lot of Italians and stuff, you know, made those. And I'm sure they used them, but not as a prop gun, you know, because they aren't, it isn't a, you know, a pretend gun, it's a real gun. And the thing that got me, you know, like when they said, he claimed somebody handed him the gun, like the assistant director handed him the gun, and told him it was safe. The man never even looked at it. But now, on a single action, you know, it isn't like you just pull the trigger, you have to purposely pull the hammer back. You know, this is something you don't do by accident. And then you had to point it, and you had to pull the trigger. You know, I get the feeling there's a lot more to this story. This was, I wouldn't say it was an accident. It was perhaps an accident that the gun was loaded. But I got the feeling this guy was screwing around with that gun. You know, they said, you know, I think he playing around, you know, like little kids will do, and them Baldwins are nothing but big little kids. So I think that's probably what went down. The fact that the gun was actually loaded, I have suspicions about that too, because they said there had been problems with guns accidentally going off during the shooting of this, and half the crew had walked out. Well, there were safety concerns, and when they addressed these concerns, I have heard two different ways. I heard one that a bunch of them walked off the set, and then I also heard that he fired a bunch just hours before this went down. And then he hired a bunch of non-union people to replace him. Okay, this, you know, kind of thing on a movie set is not something you screw around with. You know, they talk about this Brandon Lee thing. You know, when I hear these people on the news talking about it, and of course they have no idea what they're really talking about. I did a video on that, how that Brandon Lee thing went down. That's like maybe 3 or 4 years back. This wasn't like that. This, they said, was a loaded cartridge. You know, the Brandon Lee one was a squib, bullet got caught in the barrel because they were trying to make up dummy rounds, so one of the dummy rounds had a live primer. Push that up into the barrel, though why, when you hear this pook, and it goes into the barrel, somebody didn't say, hey, we might have a problem. No. They shoved a blank in there, and then the blank, of course, was enough to push this bullet out of the barrel and nail the guy. But if you want to look back, I did a whole demonstration on that. But this, they claim this was a live round that was in this gun. Now, that makes me suspicious. You know, I'm not saying he did it. I'm saying it could have been a disgruntled employee, you know, somebody that had been on the set, had been concerned about safety, put this bullet in there to teach him a lesson, and in his screwing around, you know, he played and put a bullet in there. So, you know, if somebody loaded this, purposely loaded it with a live round, and he accidentally, you know, carelessly, completely negligently pulls this up and pretends he's going to shoot her, like I say, he had to pull the hammer back. You know, this isn't an accident. So, I don't know if they don't charge him with something, because that's just negligent homicide, I guess you would call it. But if they find out who put that live round in there, because there's not supposed to even be a live round on the set. There's no point to that. So it makes me a little suspicious that way. You know, they really got to look at the people who were handling the gun before they got fired. I think you might have, like I say, a disgruntled employee. But that doesn't excuse him. I mean, still, that's the first thing you should learn is you don't go pointing the gun at somebody. But, you know, and then when they said 2 people, 1 killed, 1 injured, well, it happened that this went completely through her chest and nailed the guy behind her in the shoulder. And my understanding was it was a 44. But you never know, you know, like you're getting this from people who don't know what they're talking about. Just, you know, carrying on. But I don't call that an accident. That's just extreme carelessness. And if somebody actually purposely put that round in there, well, then you got a case for murder. But even him pulling that trigger on her, you know, but I think they're going to say, you know, I hope, you know, you hate to see somebody you have to be charged, but I think he has to be charged. Though he is, you know, a pet of the left, and he's anti-gun in theory. So I don't know how that'll go down. But he bears an awful lot of responsibility in this. You know, he's right away saying, oh, somebody gave me a hot gun. And that's no excuse. You know, there's a lot more of this to come out. So go into this too much and you start speculating, but you can't equate this to what went down with Brandon Lee. That was, again, carelessness. You know, like to get a squib in there and then go a whole load of blank in, you know, something's going to happen. But when they report this shooting on this movie set, and then they say that that the gun misfired, a prop gun, which obviously if you can drill 2 people with it, it's not a prop gun. And if you have to pull the hammer back to pull the trigger, you know, that's not really an accident, and it's not a misfire. The gun did exactly what it was supposed to do. But it was the idiot behind the gun that was having a problem. But I would really be, you know, I think somebody he bears a lot of responsibility, but whoever put that live round, you don't know, maybe this was something, you know, like I said, they had a lot of complaints about safety. And maybe they had live rounds on the set, maybe they were plinking around when they had nothing going on. You know, it could be. I don't know. People are capable of that sort of thing. But man, you know, it's a very stupid thing to have happen. Especially, you know, after this has happened before, this kind of thing, which is why they get professionals to oversee this. You know, your eyes should never be off that gun. This seems just impossible to have happen. But I think they were trying to do this low budget. They didn't have professionals. I think they just had some Yahoo. But yeah, there's going to be. But I tell you, I think that man has to do time for that. I don't think you can. That's just beyond careless, you know. But like I say, you know, he's like a little boy who never grew up. He's a big little boy. And I can see him screwing around, you know, and just as a joke, pulling it up like he's going to shoot her with a blank. But I'd look at a disgruntled employee, because I think they were very disgruntled, these people that got, well, either walked off the set or got fired, whichever the truth of the story is. But there's got a lot of answers need to come out about that. But there's a reason that you have professionals on a set like that. You don't just let anybody handle that sort of thing. Oh well.